March 6, 1944, 23,000 feet above Germany, B-17 Hell's Fury flew deep in enemy territory. In the tail gun position, Staff Sergeant Michael "Mad Mike" Donovan spotted 12 Messerschmitt Bf-109s forming for attack. Standard procedure demanded defensive fire and ammunition conservation. Training preached patience and survival. Donovan chose violence. In the next 4 minutes, 12 German fighters would fall from the sky. 0 American casualties. And every bomber gunner in the 8th Air Force would learn a new word: aggression. Michael Donovan grew up in South Boston's roughest neighborhoods, where survival meant striking first. His dock worker father taught him one rule: hit before you get hit. By 17, Donovan had fought 32 street battles, winning 28. He lost 4 because, as he later admitted, "I started too late." After Pearl Harbor, Donovan enlisted in the Army Air Forces. They wanted him for ground crew. He demanded gunnery school. Instructors labeled him too aggressive, too reckless, too willing to expose himself for return fire. His response became gunnery school legend: "Dead gunners don't shoot back. Live ones do." He graduated 3rd in his class, not for accuracy, but for speed. Donovan could acquire targets faster than anyone. His secret was devastatingly simple. He didn't wait for fighters to enter his firing zone. He hunted them first. March 1944 brought Donovan to the 390th Bombardment Group at Framlingham, England. Hell's Fury already carried a dark reputation. 3 missions, 3 near-catastrophic fighter encounters. The previous tail gunner had survived but requested transfer, calling the position cursed. Donovan volunteered immediately. Captain James Whitmore interviewed him personally. "You know the statistics. Tail gunners have 38% casualty rate. Most don't finish their tour." "Then I've got 62% odds," Donovan replied. "I'll take them." "Why?" "Because I don't wait for them to shoot me. I shoot first." Whitmore studied this Boston street fighter turned aerial warrior. "You're insane. You'll fit right in." Donovan's first 2 missions proved his philosophy. While other gunners waited for fighters to commit, Donovan fired at extreme range, forcing formations to scatter before organizing attacks. He wasted ammunition on seemingly impossible shots, but his logic was bulletproof. 1 burst at 800 yards costs 20 rounds. 1 broken attack saves 10,000 pounds of aircraft and 9 lives. On March 4th, Donovan revolutionized bomber defense with a simple observation. German fighters attacked in predictable formations, lead fighter drawing fire, while wingmen exploited the distraction. Instead of targeting the obvious threat, Donovan shot the wingman first. The psychological impact was immediate. Lead fighters, suddenly alone, aborted attacks rather than continue without support. But March 6th would make history. The target, Augsburg Aircraft Factory, 800 B-17s against 2,500 German fighters. Intelligence predicted catastrophic losses. At the pre-mission briefing, Donovan requested permission to implement aggressive fire doctrine. "That burns ammunition," Whitmore protested. "Or prevents the fight entirely," Donovan countered. "We've played defense for 2 years at 38% casualty rate. Maybe it's time we stopped waiting to get shot." At 0999 hours, the call came. Fighters, 6 o'clock high, 12 bandits. Standard doctrine demanded waiting until fighters committed. Donovan opened fire at maximum range, 2,000 yards. His tracers arced through empty sky, missing by hundreds of feet. But the psychological effect was devastating. German formations scattered like startled birds. The lead fighter broke right. Wingmen hesitated. Attack patterns disintegrated. Without firing an accurate shot, Donovan had seized initiative from 12 veteran pilots. The Germans regrouped, approaching cautiously instead of aggressively. Donovan tracked the new leader, waiting. At 1,000 yards, killing range, he unleashed hell. 200 rounds in 3 seconds. The Bf-109 disintegrated. The remaining fighters split into 2 groups, attempting to divide Donovan's attention. He ignored one group completely, focusing everything on the 6 fighters attacking directly astern. In 30 seconds, he destroyed 3 more aircraft. The survivors fled, not repositioning, but retreating entirely from a single gun position. 15 minutes later, 18 fresh fighters arrived. They'd studied the first group's fate and adapted, attacking from multiple angles simultaneously. Donovan's response was brilliantly brutal. He ignored all peripheral threats, concentrating solely on the 6 fighters approaching directly from behind. At maximum range, he walked tracers into the lead fighter's path. The pilot couldn't evade without breaking formation. At 800 yards, Donovan's rounds found their mark. The second fighter flew directly into his stream of fire. In 7 seconds, 2 more Bf-109s were fallen. But the real test came with the third wave, 48 fighters, a full grouping. Donovan had 380 rounds remaining against impossible odds. His solution was audaciously simple: attack while they were still forming. He poured 200 rounds into the formation's center, not targeting specific aircraft, but the space where coordination happened. 1 fighter exploded, 2 collided, trying to evade. The entire formation, 48 veteran pilots, scattered in chaos. When they regrouped for a desperate swarming attack, Donovan had 180 rounds left. He used them with surgical precision, targeting the swarm's psychological center. 6 more fighters fell in 45 seconds before his guns ran dry. The surviving Germans knew Donovan was out of ammunition. They formed for a final execution run. Donovan had 1 weapon left: reputation. He tracked the approaching fighters with empty guns, maintaining perfect targeting discipline. The lead pilot, seeing twin 50s aimed at his cockpit, broke formation on pure instinct. The others followed. They'd lost 21 aircraft to a single bomber. The psychological defeat was complete. Word spread through German fighter wings: avoid hell's fury. Too dangerous, too costly. The bomber that should have died flew home untouched. That evening, Major General Frederick Anderson arrived at Framlingham. Donovan's tactics had achieved the impossible. 1 gunner destroying 12 fighters while disrupting an entire German operation. Anderson asked one question: "Can you teach this?" "To the right men," Donovan replied. "You need gunners who see opportunity instead of threat, who'd rather attack than defend." "Find them," Anderson ordered. "You're developing new doctrine for the entire 8th Air Force." The Donovan Doctrine revolutionized aerial combat through 5 principles. Seize initiative. Engage during enemy formation, forcing reaction instead of executing plans. Psychological warfare. First bursts need not kill. They must intimidate, creating hesitation and doubt. Focused fire. When outnumbered, concentrate everything on the greatest threat. Trust others for peripheral defense, ammunition economy. Through aggression, 30 rounds preventing attack cost less than 300 rounds in defense. Accept risk. Individual exposure decreased mission losses. Personal risk for collective survival. Initial resistance was fierce. Traditional gunners called it suicidal, but statistics didn't lie. Tail gunner casualties dropped from 38% to 23% in 3 months. German fighter attack completion rates fell from 52% to 27%. Donovan trained 300 gunners between March and August 1944. His graduates accounted for 43% of all tail gunner kills in Europe. One student destroyed 16 fighters in 4 missions. Another survived 27 missions without serious damage, through aggression, not defense. German training manuals soon included warnings about American aggressive gunners. The recommended tactic was simple: avoid them. Find easier targets. The hunter had become the hunted. Conservative estimates credit Donovan's doctrine with saving 300 bombers and 3,000 aircrew. The compound effect prevented attacks, disrupted operations, psychological intimidation, transformed the air war. Donovan never flew another combat mission after March 6th. He spent the remainder of the war teaching others to shoot first, think like predators rather than prey. His influence spread beyond bombers to every defensive position in aerial warfare. After the war, Donovan returned to Boston, worked construction, rarely discussed his service. He died in 1998. His obituary, mentioning only tail gunner, developed new tactics. It didn't mention 12 kills in 4 minutes, 300 gunners trained, 3,000 lives saved. But his fellow gunners knew. They gathered in a South Boston bar the night before his funeral. Sergeant Thomas Bailey, one of Donovan's first students, gave the toast. Mike never thought he was special, just a guy doing his job, but that job saved 3,000 of us. Every bomber that made it home because Germans broke off attack, every gunner who survived because he learned aggression over defense. That's Mike's legacy, not 12 kills, 12,000 lives. The Donovan doctrine remains standard in modern aerial combat. Fighter pilots study aggressive engagement. Transport gunners learn psychological intimidation. Even missile defense systems incorporate early engagement principles. March 6, 1944, lasted 4 minutes. One tail gunner transformed defensive aerial combat forever. Not through superior firepower or technology, but through a simple revelation. Survival doesn't come from hiding. It comes from making your enemy too scared to fight. Michael Donovan fired 2,000 rounds, destroyed 12 aircraft, saved 3,000 lives, and changed warfare permanently. Not because he was special, because he refused to wait for death. He went hunting first.